Hello and welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. I'm your host, Andrew Moses. With me today, I have a very, very special guest, Mary Wise, the head volleyball coach at University of Florida, the Gators. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. And as you and I have talked about, I am a proud Penn Stater, but I have admired from afar the great work that you've done over the years with the Gator volleyball team. And I'm really looking forward to digging into all that with you here over the next few minutes.
I will not hold your Penn State heritage against you. You come from amongst a wonderful, very successful volleyball program.
We sure do, and you have a very successful volleyball program, 958 career victories. But what I want to do is go all the way back to the start of your career in coaching. So 21 years old, you become the head coach at Iowa State, the youngest head coach in Division I history at the time. When did you know you wanted to be a coach?
Honestly, from a pretty early age. I grew up in a family of educators. Both parents taught at some point in their career. And so I was leaning towards teaching, but after playing collegiate volleyball, and there were so few there were no professional opportunities for players from the United States, and the national teams were just beginning to form, and I was not at that level. So to me, it just seemed coaching made a whole lot of sense if I wanted to stay with the sport.
So we'll talk all about coaching and leadership as we get into it here. As you and I have talked about, this show is called Everybody Pulls the Tarp, and it's really based around a philosophy that I have, that great teams and great organizations are powered by individuals who contribute far beyond the boundaries of their job description. I learned this lesson many, many years ago when I was starting my career in minor league baseball, and they asked me to pull the tarp during rain delays, and that surely was not in my job description. But as I learned, for a team to do great things, everybody has to contribute in a variety of different ways and be willing to adapt. One of the things that I'm always curious when I talk to coaches, and especially college coaches, is how do you go about, obviously you're on the recruiting trail looking for great volleyball players, but how do you identify those folks that have the work ethic and the desire to be great?
Andrew, it's a great question, and I'm not sure we always completely know, because what we're looking at players when we're recruiting, we're looking at them and getting to know them at a snapshot in time of their career. We obviously talk to them, we talk to the people around them, the coaches, the parents, but even those people have not been in this program to really fully understand the commitment level that we're looking for in the players. So what we try to do is paint an honest picture of who we are. And it was one of the things that I learned along the way, how important it was to understand our brand and then be authentic in the recruiting. I've made mistakes in the past when I first got in this profession, thinking, well, maybe it wouldn't be a perfect fit, but I loved her arm swing. She could kill a ball, never mind the other things. And, with age, you hope comes wisdom, mainly out of errors, but realizing how important it is to understand the fit and then be as honest as we can in the recruiting so that we can find those players that fit the philosophy of our program.
So you're completely honest and transparent. You say, hey, this is what it's going to take to succeed as a Gator volleyball player. And then you see how they respond.
Well, I think it's best that if we go in that way, because even if we paint the most honest and complete picture, it's still new to them. The difference between high school and college is so vast. The game is so different. We had a conversation with one of our rising juniors who, when she came out of high school, she was the ranked number one in the nation as a top player in the nation. Her name's Thayer Hall, and a great player in high school. And when we recruited her, and she was telling someone of this recently, that she appreciated the fact that we never told her, Thayer, if you come here, you're going to start immediately. There's 6 rotations. That's your position. We didn't, and she was the best player coming out. But we told her this is the path to get there. This is our vision, but you would have to do the work to get there. And so here she is, like 4 years removed from that time, And she actually said that that was one of the keys to making the decision, was that clarity and honesty.
Wow. And she probably doesn't get that clarity and honesty from everybody on the recruiting trail. And your competitiveness and fire for greatness must come through. Let's talk about competitiveness for a second. Everybody around your program talks about your competitiveness. Where does that competitive fire come from?
Well, we used to joke. I grew up. There's 6 kids in the family, and we used to fight over that last piece of the dessert. And I had older brothers that picked on me, and so there was this like survival of the fittest. But I think again, over time, we competing is. I think you can say it's being your best at as many moments as you can. And that's what we look at as competing. It's not just I win, you lose, but can we, with everyone on board, put ourselves in a position fully invested and trying to be our best each night, not only each night that we play, but every day when we show up in the gym or in the weight room. And that now is how I look at competing.
So every day, are you striving for perfection, or how do you look at that?
We're just trying to be this much better from yesterday.
This much better from yesterday.
Yeah, what you can't do is coach to perfection. We're going to try and strive to be the best version of ourselves. But I have coached enough highly intense, driven women that actually thought perfection was the only way. The problem with perfection is then you're really not learning, because you only learn through mistakes. And so making mistakes is the best way to learn. And that's what we strive for, is to create a culture where they're safe in practice situations, that they can make mistakes so they can grow their game. But perfection is not what we're striving for. We're just trying to be the best version of ourselves.
Well, from a results perspective, you guys sure have been pretty close. I mean, 29 consecutive 25-win seasons, which I believe is number one in Division I history by like 11 seasons or something like that. 15 SEC Coach of the Year awards for you. So by not striving for perfection, you guys are ended up somewhere pretty great, for sure. How have you been so consistent?
Well, as any coach will tell you, it comes down, you have to have the talent, right? And so it's recruiting of the right players, as I talked about earlier, that fit the culture, and then developing them, getting the buy-in. And one of the beauties of being at the same school for so long is that we haven't had to reinvent the wheel. There's certain tried and true philosophies that the older players actually pass down to the younger players, and that we get the older players teach the culture of the program. And so the little things that become big things, like a phenomenal support staff that are all on the same page, that we're all working together, we're interconnected, we're collaborative. That's the strength coach, the trainer, the nutritionist, and then we work together, but not from the top down. So your philosophy of everyone pulls the tarp, I like to think, yeah, that is how we try to do it here. And for me to empower the people around me so that they can do what they do best. So you surround yourself with great people, empower them. You recruit the right players with the talent, but also the fit the culture, and then you create an opportunity for them to learn by failure, acceptance, growing their game, taking ownership of the game. It's one of the challenges I truly believe with coaching women. Female athletes are almost spoon-fed in sports at a young age. They're given so many, as it's called, like do commands, do this, do that, put your left foot here and all, where they just don't explore games through socialization or whatever. And so what you have are females athletes they're waiting for the next piece of instruction, as opposed to owning their own game and developing it. And that's one of the things we've had to break through and work on from the moment they arrive.
That's interesting. And I'm a dad of 2 young girls, a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Is that changing at all? Has that changed over the years?
Honestly, Andrew, I think it's almost it's changed, but not for the better. Meaning, specializing in sports. That's true of male and females. Too early a sports specialization. We have to pay for lessons, and we have to be on this travel team. And when you go all in, you can't play multiple sports. And so, we hear about it in the men's game, is that it's not developing the athletes if they choose and only train in one sport. Well, I think that's doubly true for females, just by socialization. Young girls, and I have a granddaughter, I know that they don't do play in physical activities like the two, both our sons did when they were little.
It's very interesting. So let's talk about your team a second. You've assembled great teams for decades now. When you get the team on campus, how do you know when a team is going to be great versus versus a good team?
Oh, what a great question. So much has to do with the leadership and talent of your oldest players. And that the best teams we've had have had great talent in the senior class, but also great leadership. It's hard. I've said it before, it's hard to lead from the bench. And so if you've got your best players, your most talented players are also your best leaders, then you've got the perfect situation. And I shouldn't say perfect, because it's not, as we said, it's never perfect, but
sure.
It certainly makes my job easier. How about that?
That's fair. That's fair. And then does it become a locker room team-led program at that point?
Well, I hope so, because, or at least that's what's worked for us, is that we promote and create opportunities for mentoring by position. Even so far, Andrew, when freshmen arrive on campus, they're given a guardian. We call it a Gator Guardian. You have your
Okay.
Gator Guardian and your Gator Guardee. And so we're creating opportunities for those older players to help the freshmen in the transition piece. And then by our training, we do a lot of collaboration within positions, meaning the middle blockers work together, the pin hitters work together, and they work to make each other better. And all that does is raise the level of talent in the gym. If it has to be just my voice from the top down, I don't ever think that gets the best out of the players.
That's interesting, and the Gator Guardian thing is really fascinating. I haven't heard of anything quite like that before. But it makes sense, because people around your program talk about the family culture. I mean, you talked about top to bottom, head coach to strength coach, assistant coaches, team managers. Everybody has a role to play. But how have you created that family that people say it's like a family here? It's like a family here.
Well, what we've done is lived it. I mean, that's one thing you could say it, but do you live it? And what I mean by that, from an organizational standpoint, is what we will have twice a year. We call it our family meeting. And that is, we bring all of our coaches, our support staff, our in terms of athletic trainer, and our nutritionist and strength coach, and all the sports information director, marketing, everybody whose work touches the student athlete. And we all get in the room and meet about, it helps me understand what are their challenges, because I may not understand the challenges of an academic advisor on a day-to-day basis, but I think it's important that what are her greatest challenges, and then how it affects our players. So I think having your staff feel that family, and then there's the little thing, our boys, when they were real little, when they were babies, they traveled with us. They were around, and they were around just enough that I got to see them, but not enough to be a complete distraction. So when we call about a family atmosphere, I think it's relationship building. And so what I described to you in terms of the organization, that's to create investment by those that we're working with. And then when they're fully invested, then they'll spend the time to build relationships. And that is how you create a family atmosphere.
Your players talk about that family atmosphere like we've just talked about. And they also talk about how, Coach Mary Wise cares about us almost more so as people than she does as volleyball players. Talk about that for a minute. That's really special.
but that's not hard. Actually, Andrew, this is my favorite part of the job. And that is that seeing the players as people first. We always say the person over the player. And because I never want their relationship with me be based on their production. That sends the wrong message. I mean, certainly we have expectations of them and we have goals for them, but I want them to know that how they perform on the court is not how I see them as a person. And how I see them as a person is by getting to know them, to really learn who they are. And that's the fun part of the job, because when you really get to know a player as the person first, then you will know them and have that relationship long after they're done playing.
And do you have players that, you know, maybe graduated 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago that play a role in the program today, even if it's just an informal role?
Not on a regular basis, but what we have is an open door in the facility. And so when they come back, I'll stop practice, and our staff will tell you, it doesn't matter what drill we're in, it doesn't matter what point of practice. If I see an alum walk in, we're stopping. And we're stopping. So I want all of the players to meet the alums. We have on our practice facility, we have the pictures on banners of all of the multi-All-Americans that have come through our program. And so every day in practice, the players can look up on the wall and see all those pictures. And so they put a face with the name. Now they may do it as they're stretching and cooling down at the end. They'll know that Amber McCrae is above this door over here, or whoever. But I think it's my staying connected with the alums. I love doing that. I love reaching out. We have we've been using a Facebook page. It's pretty fun. And during the shutdown, I was going on and capturing, just using my phone, just capturing video and putting it on the Facebook page. And that was pretty fun, because the video I hadn't seen in years, and they hadn't either. And
that is fun. That is fun. Speaking of the shutdown, so this whole world we're living in right now is particularly challenging for everybody, but it has to be really challenging for a coach who's trying to get a team assembled and prepare appropriately. How are you guys going about the current adversity that we're facing in terms of the social distancing and the COVID crisis and safely getting the team back in order?
Well, if I can start from the beginning, and I'll never forget, March 11th, we thought we were going to be playing Georgia Tech in one of our spring competitions on Saturday. And I was so looking forward to, because I've been on the road recruiting like the 4 previous weekends. And finally, I was going to be with our players right here. And that was that Friday. We sent them home, and they were on planes that night or the next day going home. And at first, it was just such a shock to the system. And then as we worked through it as a staff, we thought, okay, can we take advantage of this time? Are there things we can be doing to maybe we're not in the gym, but can we get better as players even without touching a ball? And so actually, Andrew, to one of those points I talked earlier about young females and how they learn, I know this, and I saw it with my own boys. They would watch, our sons would watch sports. It didn't matter which sport, but they would watch sports on TV. And then they'd go out in the backyard and they would imitate those players. A baseball player, how he held the bat, or the free throw, the routine for the free throw shots. And little boys just practice modeling. And why girls don't, that I don't know. Someone who studies this would know, and much smarter than me would know. But first of all, females don't watch sports on TV like males. That's proven. And I don't think women athletes model, generally speaking, model other women athletes the way guys do. So we thought during this time, could we change that? Could we provide video for our players of different, so our athletes watching other players in their same position and watch them, and our players admitted, a lot of them admitted they never would think to watch video about, they'll watch, what they'll do, they'll watch it to see how her hair looks. And I don't say that, please don't take that negatively. They watch them more superficially, but not to imitate their game. So we thought, could that help us? And then moving forward, we did some other things, a lot of video watching, but we also thought, are there things we can do to enhance our culture? And we're doing a book club together. So every Wednesday, right now we're reading It Takes What It Takes. And then we also had this opportunity, because this is what's happening in our world, is to understand racial inequity. And can we address that with our group? And honestly, Andrew, that's one that has been empowering to me. There are things that I've always, I've tried to create a very safe, judgment-free, non-biased culture in our program. But what the reality is, it's not good enough when they walk out the door and don't face that. And so we're working really hard to address it, to get better, to be more than just not racist. We're going to be anti-racist, and kind of having an epiphany of what my role is and how we all can be part of the change. Would that have happened during the shutdown? I don't know, Andrew. I think, we may, who knows how history will be looked back on. But I like to think that we've worked really hard to be part of it, to make a difference using this time. And now and we will continue with that. That, as one of our former players who met with us on a Zoom call talked about, it's not just a moment, it's a movement, that she had heard. I love that line. And that we're not just going to change policies, we're going to change hearts. I love that line.
I love that. I'm going to have to write that down.
Yeah.
That is unique. In all this that we're talking about is part of your legacy, and I hate to talk about legacy with active coaches, because you're still writing. You got probably 15, 20 more chapters of this book to write, and stats to compile. But you have so many firsts, next to your name. First female head coach to 500 career wins. First female head coach to 800 career wins. First 21-year-old to be a head coach in a Division I team. Did you ever step back and think about that a little bit? I mean, you got a list of a million firsts next to your name.
Truthfully, no. Because the numbers and I know this may sound self-deprecating, but truly, I had to ask how many SEC titles have we won. I don't pay attention to those, because as your coach, season's over, you're already working towards the next one. I do know, because it was so difficult at the time to be trying to compete at the top level of Division I and raising children. And I looked around to other programs to look at other females, like, how are you doing it? What does it look like? And there weren't any at the time. There were just no female head coaches also raising kids in a top 10 program. And that wasn't easy. So we just sort of, smoke and mirrors. So that I remember. But in terms of the numbers and the first and all, it just, you're in it. You're just trying to do the best job you can. And maybe sometime later when we look back.
When people look back on your career, what do you want them to say? Have you thought about that?
No, I love the question. And I probably will be thinking on it long after you and I get off from this conversation. I hope that the players will, one of the first things they will say is the experience made them better people. They grew as people, not just as players, but as people from this program. And that they left, as they built their self-confidence, that whatever they chose to do next, post-college, whether it was immediately or long-term, the things that helped them be successful as players, they were able to use, be it a mother or a lawyer, whatever they are doing. Then I think we've been successful if that's happened.
I sure think you've been successful, Mary, and I can't wait to see what's coming next in the upcoming chapters here of Florida Volleyball. Thank you so much for joining me here for a few minutes. This has been an absolute pleasure to learn from you, to hear more about your story and all of the great work you've done over decades as the University of Florida head volleyball coach. Congratulations on all the success, and thanks for joining Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
Enjoyed it. Thanks, Andrew.